one thing I say a lot is that data collection is entropic, and by that I mean that if you do nothing and you have good quality data collection over time, it's going to fall apart. Your taxonomy will fall apart. Developers will change things on your tagging. It'll break entire sections of your site. You'll have PII problems and privacy problems. So without ownership, your data is going to rot away beneath you to become garbage. What happens when that happens? Well, if you're in an organization and you don't feel like you have good data readiness, one of the things is probably that you don't trust your data. If you don't trust your data, if your data is messy, you stop using it and suddenly you are no longer a data driven organization. You have to have data that you trust, that you're confident in. And if the data is a mess, you are going to have problems. And subtly relatedly could be worse is that you do trust your data, but it actually is garbage and you're in the garbage in, garbage out situation, but you don't know that it's garbage in. And that can be worse, right? So, what do you do to maintain your data quality? So, one of the things that I recommend is having a data steward or data stewards who are owners that make that, they have the accountability of your data. So, what does that accountability look like? So you want this person to have every major data domain, whether it's marketing or product, finance, operations. You need to have a clear owner, someone who it's not necessarily a full-time data person. It's not a data scientist necessarily. It's someone who cares enough to maintain accuracy, to maintain definitions and schema and taxonomy, and maintain the process of your data. So that's the data steward. So a person who makes sure that your data in the area that they're watching over, they're stewarding part of the data, it's clean, it's reliable, it's usable. So how do you pick one of these data stewards? Who is with it? What do they actually do? Right? How do you make it work? So you want this person again, you want them to be a caretaker of a specific data domain. So let's talk about, say, marketing data. You want that person, you don't necessarily need a person who runs the system, builds the data collection, runs the analysis. You need someone who is going to ensure, as part of their job, the data is accurate, it's consistent, and it's complete, right? Everyone, you want everyone, they want to have them responsible for making sure everyone agrees on what the key terms mean. You want to make sure that they are owning the processes for how the data is collected, entered, updated, used. Um, they are they are sort of the gardener of your data landscape, right? They don't own it, but they're not planting it, but they're making sure that it's usable. So the data steward is going to sit between that technical and the business world. They're that translator between the two layers. So the jobs of a data steward, it could be defining, maintaining the data standards, the naming conventions, the formats, validation rules. They can ensure they're ensuring data quality, making sure that audits and corrections are happening at a good pace for what you're doing. They manage the metadata. They coordinate with IT and engineering for new data sources or systems when they're added. They train and they guide users within your organization to use the data or correct or have good tagging practices. And they're documenting all this and the logic so people can trust this stuff. So they're shepherding this, they're stewarding this data as a data steward to ensure that is there. So again, like I said, it doesn't have to be a data scientist or engineer. It can be someone who's close to the data department and who understands both the business meaning and the operational workflow. So you don't really want a pure technical person who doesn't really understand the business. You don't really want a business person who doesn't understand the technical at all. But I think preferably you want someone who is kind of sitting in that mid ground that touches both. So examples for this would be like, so for marketing, and it could be a senior marketing analyst, an operations lead, someone who knows how campaigns are tracked, right? They don't necessarily do it, but they understand it. They understand the business side. Product could be a product manager or a data savvy QA person. Finance could be a controller or an analyst. Sales, a CRM admin or a sales op person. The key things you want in this person is that they are detail oriented and they're skeptical, right? They're going to question the data before they trust it. They understand that this data, just they're not just trusting that it's there. They're going to question its validity from the base level. Uh, want them to be communicative, right? You want someone who is going to be able to explain data issues to non-technical people. And you want them to be consistent. You want them, like everything in life, you want consistency. You want to keep the process and documentation alive, not just fix things reactively, retroactively, right? So part of that is like how do you pick one? Like I said, you want to pick one per maybe major domain. You don't want necessarily a big global one. If you're a small enough company, maybe you can get away with it. But you want someone who understands marketing data for your marketing data. You want someone for the product data, finance, so on. Someone who is touching the data regularly. You don't want someone who is so distant that they're kind of disconnected from it. You want someone who does touch that data consistently, and you want to give them time and authority to affect change here, right? So if you're not giving them any time, here's another job for you to do. You're the data steward now, and we're not giving you any additional time or taking any additional responsibilities. Like you're lucky, you're going to be lucky if it happens, right? It's imperative that you make this happen. So you really need to make sure that person you give them the time and the authority to do this stuff. It doesn't have to be a ton of time, but you need to make sure that it's defined and they're given that time to do that. And then give them the support. Have a leader above them that supports them, analysts that can help them with validation or whatever that is. So, I think really when it comes down to it, is someone accountable for this domain of your data? And if not, you want to assign ownership. You want to have a data steward who can own it, who can have the time and the authority to make sure that it's good, do what's needed to keep it good, and have that ownership there. Because if no one owns it, no one or if someone owns it and they're not given the time to keep it good, it will fall apart.